This is by far the easiest way to make an epoxy table mold, charcuterie board mold, frame, whatever you want to call it. So first you have to find the size of what you need. I cut my length sides first, and that's what I'm doing right here. I need them 10 inches. So here I'm cutting two equal sides. And from there, then you're going to have to take into account overlap. A lot of times people forget about this. And in the beginning, like 5 years ago, I used to forget about this sometimes. So you have to take into account the spot of where the other side is going to overlap. So here I get the length of, or the width of what I need. And then I actually add my sides. And this takes the guesswork of trying to figure out how thick these two actually are. So I use my square, I put the two sides up, make my mark, and then I cut my two sides. This is the way I write it though. I put a plus on the sides because it's 12 inches plus the overlap. So that's just an easy way. Sometimes I make like 8 molds, and I don't want to have to go back through and remember, okay, this one was the one with the overlap, this one was, okay, does that make sense? So from here, you have your box, and it can be whatever size that you want it to be or need it to be. And all I do is I take a brad nailer, and I do this for 12-foot conference tables or whatever. I will also, when I do bigger ones, add a screw in there, like a self-driving screw or something like that. But for the most part, this actually works for, I think I've poured the most of like 43 gallons in a table. So I use tuck tape. You don't have to use tuck tape. You can use shipping tape. I actually have a video about the different adhesives you can use for the inside of your frames or molds. What I do first is I go around and I do the corners. The corners are a seam, and it's our job to add as much insurance to this piece as we can. So I feel like if I go over the corners first and cover that seam, then that's getting rid of like a leak, potential leak or something like that. So after I do the 4 corners, I go through and I fill in my sides like this. And then I'll just go all the way around the piece and do that. So this is me doing that. This is seriously the easiest way. Like, I don't do pocket holes. I don't do any of that. I feel like my pieces come out just like everybody else's. And yeah. So after I do that, then I go around and I take my 4, like on the corners, I will cut a little slit right there. And I'll show you here coming up right here. And that's just so that way it folds down easily, but don't cut up too far because then you will have made another seam and you don't want to do that. All right, so you just fold all your edges down like that. And from here, I always like to take a 90-degree corner clamp, and I put it in at least one side. For this, it's small, and I know that it's going to be sufficient enough. I'm actually going to check to make sure it's sufficient enough. It'd be really hard to get 2 of those in there, though. So I take my square, and I make sure that it is square. And I will move on to the next step, which is caulking. I'm going to show you the caulk that I use, and there is actually a reason that I use the white, and I will show you that coming up here as well. The reason that I use white is because if you're using a clear silicone caulk, you cannot really tell if you have like a pinhole or anything like that, like a break in your seal along the edges of your frame. So that's why I use white. I don't use black. I've had the black caulk stain my wood one time, and that just was not good. So I use white. I think they have almond as well, but I just I do white. And this is my go-to brand. I know they have a lot of different brands, but this is my go-to. So from here, I add weight to it, and I wait about an hour. But I will go along the inside, because that right there you don't want, because that's not going to let your wood sit down good. Like, it's going to have a lip right there, and you can't really pull it up afterwards because it'll break your seal underneath. So as soon as you get the weight on there and there's any squeeze out, you want to take a finger and just, right here is where I show you the hole with the white caulk. Right there. If that was clear, you might not be able to see that. And sometimes they're even smaller than that. All right, so go around and make a seal. They have a tool for this. I'll link it down below. I have the tool. I don't know. I like getting my hands dirty, so I do it by hand. And I feel like I can get a better seal. Once I wait an hour, I always do the outside. And then in about an hour, I come in once everything's sturdy and it won't move. Then I come in like this and I do my inside and I make a nice seal. So that's it. That's like the easiest way to do this.